Hi everybody, my name is Wendy Bond. I'm Director of Education for Lakme USA. And today I'm going to share with you a technique that I absolutely love. It's from Barcelona. It's called Tiger's Eye. Imagine if balayage and baby lights had a baby. You would have Tiger's Eye because it's easy, it's effective. You can make it as strong or as soft as you want. So we're going to get started. So I'm a person that, I still do clients 1 day a week, and I do anywhere from 5 to 10 clients. I work by myself, so I'm always looking for easy ways to do things. One way that's really easy is to pre-section roughly where you're gonna work. So again, this is ideal for clients that have that darker levels of hair, where you're looking to just add some movement, but you don't wanna be foiling this head of hair all day long. Like, I would rather kill myself than do fine weaves or baby fine slices. So this is very efficient. You can also do this same technique when your retouch color is on. So anything I'm doing now, if I had applied just the new growth, I could be doing this same technique afterwards. Today, we're acting like she has virgin hair and we're just gonna do the sectioning. So what I would say is you're gonna take just a very gentle sloping kind of horseshoe around the head, and I tend to like to work on like the round of the head, on these angles, because they're very forgiving, they're very natural, they kind of flow with the hair. So it's almost like a very soft V shape. And I'll pre-section so that once I start my technique, I can just move through the head very, very quickly. Part of what makes this technique effective is that it's very diffused, it's very subtle, but you're also really placing color where the client's gonna see it. So we're not wasting our time putting tons of foil on the underneath, because that's not who this technique is for. It's going to be placed starting at about the parietal ridge, going to just below the occipital bone, and then we're going to do probably 2 more sections as we get to the top. So one of the things, again, I'm always looking for ways to kind of, save time, get a better result. Instead of doing a traditional slice or just picking up a balayage piece, we're going to do what I like to call a skip slice. And you can make it as thick or as dense or opaque as you want. And what you're gonna see, so I'll show that one more time. The reason I call it a skip slice is because it's almost like if you slice and just lift up your comb. So you get a very shallow, like you get a nice pop, but you get a very flat bottom to your section. So it's nice and clean and flat. I can get as close as I need to. I also really like mixing up skinny, medium, and fat in the same section. When you do this, it actually looks like you put more work into it than you did. You can also do opaque and sheer in the same section. So in this case, I've got a little thin ribbon, I've got a slightly thicker one, and then a very thick one. Now, my regrowth color could be on. In this case, I'm just gonna really loosely tease. And you don't wanna tease too much because you don't wanna have to comb that tease out. You also don't want it to interfere with your color processing. So just gonna go ahead, and this is where it seems kind of similar in that you're gonna start at the bottom of the foil and just always apply more color near the bottom. Clean your brush off so that you have a cleaner brush as you work towards the top. This also anchors the hair. I mean, some people would feel like they need to use a board. I personally don't use them very often because I like to use my hand because I can feel the pressure. And then I just gradually walk the product up the hair. I'm using our K-Blond powder, which is very consistent. It's a very compact lightning powder, and it doesn't swell or creep, and yet it stays very active. So in this case, I'm almost painting slightly outside of my foil, and that's fine. But if you notice, my brush is very, very dry. So as I get to the top, I don't worry if I go a little bit outside the foil. Even if I drop it, this is gonna be very dry. This is very wet. So as my color processes, it's gonna go from brighter blonde to medium blonde to warmer blonde to softer blonde. And that, again, is what makes it that sort of balayage feel without so much work. The other reason I am using foils is honestly because I do so many single process colors and I add these kind of services on. So I wanna be able to do this while color's on. I wanna be able to move the hair around. And in this case, I'm just gonna fold it very, very lightly and just kind of do it like that. So I did one big section. You could do a whole head Normally I would say you would do something like you would do this whole head in probably 20 foils max. And I love doing it as an add-on. So this wouldn't replace, it's not gonna replace my balayage, it's not gonna replace my highlights. Again, I've got that sort of like skip slice where I'll just slice, maybe I'll just do 2. Try to work with what fits in the head naturally. And what we're trying to do again is focus on the ends. So in this one, I feel like that's too sheer. As I look at this, I don't really like what I picked up. I feel like this one is good. I feel like this one isn't gonna do anything for me. So I'm gonna drop the section, I'm gonna resection. I would rather have you work thoughtfully and purposely than mechanically. I always laugh, like one of the things people always ask me is, how many pieces do you put in this section, or how many sections do I do? And I'm like, how big is her head? You know, what does she want to do with her hair? How much is she looking for? So when you work purposely, see, this is better, so I can see both my pieces. The other thing that really makes the color pop is this gap. So the fact that you've got a bright piece, another bright piece, and a dark gap or shadow in the middle is actually what makes the color live. So the other thing I think about is work purposely, don't work mechanically. How many pieces you put in is according to what the client wants to see. Also the client's texture and density. The other thing to keep in mind is how bright you want the pieces to be. So obviously, if I take a denser piece, I'm gonna have a little more brightness. If I take a very sheer piece, again, just gently, a few little pushes on the comb. I don't wanna make it really tight. And again, I'll start by sort of laying the color down, going ahead and getting it to lay flat, first of all, which is really getting your product spread out on there. And then once you do that, you're kind of set. You can kind of let it go, you can do what you need to do. And then just gradually walking the color up the hair. And I can go right out onto the tees if I want to. Like I said, our K-Blond lightener is very, very stable. I feel like it's important not just with our lightener, but with anybody's lightener to really mix to manufacturer's instructions. It makes me crazy when people don't weigh and measure their lightener because you're changing the alkalinity. So if one time it's more dry, it's gonna lift more quickly and then slow down. If it's more wet, it's not gonna lift as far. So what I would say is it's really important to work towards your manufacturer's instructions and to work consistently so that you know when you're timing something, you get that consistent timing. So again, in this case, I'm just sort of not folding it more than I have to. I'm just gonna gently fold it a little bit so that when she finally gets to the sink, these will just pull right out. So again, I don't mind that this is coming out. I don't mind that that's gonna dry a little bit. That it has a really nice organic kind of feel to the color. So even as the color appears, you're really seeing, you can see that ribboning effect where you see the thicker and thinner ribbons on the same placement. And you can see how the color goes from brighter to softer as it moves through the hair. And you can also tell that it really is mainly focusing on the surface of the hair. So I hope that Tiger's Eye is something that you feel like you can use on your salon clients. I feel like this is something that's a great add-on. I'm more and more looking for ways to upsell. So if I was doing this on a client, I would charge probably what I would charge for a partial if they were getting it on their own. And if they were doing it with a single process, it might be a little less than a partial. I'm all about upselling and adding on. So if I can add $45 every time you come in, I'm really happy to do that. So thank you guys, and you can find me at Wendy Bond Hair or Lakme USA.